So good evening. I'm going to call the meeting of the Norfolk School Committee tonight. We're going to get started. It's the policy of the school committee to begin each meeting by reading our mission statement. The Norfolk Public Schools offers a safe, joyful, and challenging learning environment that meets the needs of our diverse learners. Through school, family, and community partnerships, we provide an education that inspires lifelong learners and cultivates caring and productive citizens of our ever-changing world. We'll start with a roll call.
Victoria Soldano.
Sarah Ward.
Shannon Meneses.
Jennifer Wynn.
Medora Champagne.
Thomas Doyle.
Okay, great. So the first order of business tonight is the school committee's annual reorganization, and I'd like to seek a motion to elect a school committee chairperson.
So moved.
Would anyone like to nominate someone?
I nominate Thomas Doyle to once again serve as the school committee chairperson.
Great. Do
I'll
we have a
second.
Second from Jen?
Yes.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so it's unanimous, so I will turn it over to Thomas.
Thank you. And just for everyone's knowledge in advance, this is my final year on committee, so next May, somebody else. All right, so now we got to go through the various other things, so this will be a little easier because then at least Shannon and Sarah both know as far as what we're getting into for last year, so I have a better sense of it. All right, so we will now need a motion to nominate a vice chairperson.
I'll make a motion to nominate Medora Champagne.
We have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congrats.
Thank you, I think.
All right, then we need a motion to nominate the secretary / KP representative / legislative liaison.
I move to nominate Sarah Ward. No, we will discuss.
We just need a motion, then we'll talk about it
I just need a
separately.
second, and then we can, but
That was hard.
Robert's rules require the motion.
I want to see how that's reflected in the meeting minutes.
Sorry, Pam.
Do we have a second? Second, okay. Now we're up to the discussion portion.
I 100% understand if you're not interested in doing it again, but
Yes, this is
getting
not
the
the Army,
conversation
you
started.
don't have to.
Yeah, we
I
appreciate
would
your
do
year
it
of service.
just to get it set up for the fall, just because I have the institutional knowledge from last year and what we've been doing over there. But I would like to hand it over at some point this year to someone else.
I think that's fair.
I think that's fair, and I can help out once I understand my fall schedule.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, I
Yeah.
think we could all,
Yeah, I would be happy to as well.
yeah.
Okay, so with that sort of agreement in place, all those in favor of Sarah once again being the various secretary, KP, legislative,
That's a lot of stuff.
and legislative liaison, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you again, Sarah.
No problem.
I know that's
I
a
wanted
tough
to
one.
ask another question about that.
You
Sure.
can.
If for some reason, like if your schedule doesn't allow, can someone else, even before the fall, it has to be?
No, whoever we appoint serves as a full member of the committee,
Okay.
and the role can't be shared according to the regional bylaws.
I was just thinking schedule-wise if she needed to.
Yep.
announce someone.
Anyone is always allowed to attend as a member of the audience to take notes to share back with the committee, but you wouldn't be able to serve in her place at the meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
That being said, Sarah, if you really run into a bind with your schedule and just can't make
Oh,
the
I've
meeting,
missed
that's
other
fine.
meetings before, yeah.
Okay.
And they've
I just
been-
wanna make sure you didn't-
I'm always like, I'm not messing with the quorum, am I, if I miss this meeting? And they say no, so.
Yeah, it
No,
should be
because it's
good
twice a
number-wise.
month, but the expectation is really try to make it.
Well, we try to have somebody there at every meeting.
Yeah.
But
Twice.
certainly they understand elementary reps are serving on 2 committees. So,
Gotcha.
if you have to miss a meeting in a month, it's reasonable.
Yeah, and I think last year was just extreme, just because of what was going on with everything they had to coordinate. So I'm sure this year will be a little easier, hopefully. Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah.
Thank you again. All right, and then we need a motion to nominate Pam as recording secretary.
I
Nice
move
surprise.
to nominate Pam as our recording secretary.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay. Assuming no further discussion on that one, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congrats, Pam. All right, so then we need to select the various members to do the following. So bill signers, I think I primarily served as the main one, but I know you helped me out a number of times during this year if I wasn't able to do it. I think I finally got a system that works. But
You
then
got a
all-
new scanner?
Yeah. I gave up my work one, essentially, is what ended up being the case. So now I signed the PDF. So I still make it interesting because I signed the wrong PDF the other day, but I did eventually get the right
You
one.
get it.
And then everyone else would just serve as an alternate signer in the event.
It was very exciting when I was called as an alternate.
Big day. And so the same thing would apply for the designated payroll signer. So I guess I'd be listed as a primary, then any of us would then be able to serve in backup. Budget subcommittee last year was Medora and myself. I don't know if anyone else has a strong feeling about that one way or the other. I don't know, Medora, if you want to continue to do it, I'm happy to continue to do it.
I would like to continue doing it
Okay.
just because there's, as Sarah used a great phrase, institutional knowledge at this point.
I'm happy to
Hopefully
keep
we don't
doing it
have any
too.
more wild years, but yeah, it's,
Shannon, you have a burning desire to be on the budget subcommittee, or?
No, I actually like being on the policy
Okay.
side.
I
so-
concur.
All right, so then that's that. So then we'll leave policy exactly where it is, and then yeah, that works out perfectly
works.
then.
Mhm.
Okay.
That was easy.
All right, we're reorganized. Good job.
Reorganized in our same.
I was just going to say.
well, for me, the budget
Nothing
subcommittee
changed.
sparks joy, so I want to keep it very organized.
All right, so let me see. First thing we have correspondence is a gift to the gift fund, which totals the amount of $3,088.35. Most of that coming from the Norfolk PTO. And then Chipotle also did a 6th grade promotion fundraiser. They're part of that. So do we have a motion to accept the $3,088.35 that's being donated?
So moved. A very generous gift from the Doyle family as well.
That's for the dog. Remember, that's for our committee dog. That was
I
my
know,
requirement.
I know. Even though it wasn't a novelty check, it's still a very nice gift.
Which I desperately wanted.
Where do you get a novelty check? I don't even know.
We need to find that out. All right, so do we have a second regarding? Okay. Any further discussion on that?
No.
No.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, then we move on. We got the BICO board reappointment. Where Ingrid has basically served on this forever.
For years. It
Yeah.
has to either be a school committee member or the superintendent to serve on the BICO board. We're part of that collaborative. The meetings are on Thursdays at noon. So generally, the committee has chosen to have me represent the committee. And that's true at this point. It's all superintendents serving. I was able to pass the chair of that board off this year, so I've done that for a number of years, but I'm happy to continue to serve as a member if the committee so desires.
All right, so we can make so we just need a motion to reappoint Ingrid to the BICO board.
I'll make a motion to reappoint Dr. Alardi to the BICO board.
A second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Thank you for continuing to do it.
My
Okay, all in
pleasure.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you again. All right, now we skip on to Ingrid.
Yeah, we have a number of things on the agenda for tonight. The first, we have Tony Davis here, who is the director of the school-age childcare program. It's a program that we've run for before and after care as a service to the community for a number of years. Tony's done an outstanding job. We have very high enrollment in that program. We actually have a wait list, which I'm sure many of you have heard. It is not uncommon. Most districts for their before and after school cares currently have a wait list. I think that one of the challenges in Norfolk is there's not other home-based daycare or centers like the YMCA that serve this immediate area. So Tony has operated that program at very low cost to families for a number of years. And in looking at the tuition rates and program fees with other regional district programs, Tony's recommending a rate increase. And she's here virtually with us tonight, so I'm going to turn it over to Tony to talk about her proposal for fiscal 2022.
Yeah, so after 13 years, looking at the budget for next year, it looks like we will need an increase in order to preserve the quality of the program. I did look at local towns to see what their rates were and found that we were in line with a lot of them, if not below. And so I'm proposing proposing this for this coming school year, but don't anticipate a need to increase it beyond that. But it does seem necessary going into the following school year.
And that is partially because of the need to keep student-staff ratios down, increase the number of staff that you have on site for the program, as well as some of the other materials costs, cleaning supplies, other things that are part of your operating budget. Is that correct, Tony?
That's correct.
Right. So the before-school program currently is $8 a morning for the first child, $7 for siblings. Tony's looking to increase it to $10 a morning for the first child, $9 for siblings. That program runs from 7 to the beginning of school.
Correct.
Yeah. So it's 2 hours in the morning. The after-school program currently is $18.50 an afternoon for the first child with $16.50 for siblings, and there's an additional snack fee that is optional, but Tony said at this point, almost all families are accessing that, so she just would prefer to build that into the rate rather than invoicing twice. So they're proposing $21 for an afternoon and not an additional snack fee. So the programs are basically looking to go up $2 a day. Again, this is still under what most other regional districts are charging, and makes the program competitive, but allows us to appropriately staff and adjust the increase to minimum wage will also increase the cost of staffing. Any questions from the committee?
Tony, I'm just curious, how are you doing with finding people to staff the program? Is that going okay this year? And
So
anticipating?
Yeah, so this year our enrollment is incredibly low. So we actually have one of the smallest staffs we've ever had. So I will need to increase our staff quite a bit for next year, and that's something that we're starting to look at right now. But right now we're well staffed because of our low enrollment.
That's great. Thank you.
Oh, you might have said this, I'm sorry if I missed this. When was the last time these rates were increased?
It's been 13 years since we've
Okay,
had.
I thought that was the case, so that's a remarkable,
It's a very long term.
that's,
Yeah. And the wage increases have gone up every year,
Right, right.
obviously, so.
okay. I just want to make sure I'd heard that right. I thought I heard 13. I was like, I'm not sure I heard that right, but okay,
Yep.
thank you.
So we would be looking for a motion from the committee to accept the proposed rate increase for the SAC program.
I move to accept the proposed rate increase for the SAC program for the 2021-2022 school year.
Have a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
Thank
you,
you very
Tony.
much, Tony,
Thank you
joining
for the
us.
great job. Your
you.
program's beloved in town.
It is.
Great.
And
Thank you
still
so much.
extraordinarily reasonable at, what, like $5 an hour for childcare? That's,
And keeps
That's a good
working
deal.
parents sane. Somewhere.
Saner.
Thanks,
Saner,
Tony.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
The next on our agenda, we have the tech team that's going to be joining us virtually. As you all know, this has been an incredibly challenging year as we've had to pivot from various learning models, from fully remote learning to hybrid learning to full in-person. And our tech team has been absolutely phenomenal in all of the work they've done to make this year possible. So behind the scenes, besides supporting, distributing technology equipment, help desk support for families, students, and staff, they've done a lot of creative design to develop a drop-off and pickup, to automate a lot of our procedures for COVID safety. And I really thought it was important for the committee to hear some of the projects and work that they undertook and the countless hours that they put into helping our district run smoothly this year. So I'm going to turn it over. We have with us Trish Kelly, our Director of Technology. Trish, if you can wave. All right, great. Raphael Sardi, who is our Network Administrator. Mark Peasy, who is our IT Specialist. And Robin Tusseri, Tech Integration Specialist. So they are going to share with you a brief presentation and highlight some of the work the technology team has done this year.
At this point, I need whoever's hosting the meeting to allow me to share my screen.
He's working on it.
Okay.
Only there was a tech person available to help you.
that should work.
Yeah.
Trish, he made you a
Yep.
post.
she
Yeah.
got it.
Go. Perfect.
Great, we can see. Thank you.
Okay. Great. It's nice to see all of you again, even though it's virtually. My team and I enjoy presenting to the school committee every spring. We look forward to updating you on all the exciting things that happen in the schools with technology. On behalf of my team tonight, I want to thank Dr. Alardi and the school committee for all the support that you've given us over the years, but particularly this most challenging year. So thank you very much. I would also like to thank my incredibly talented, creative, patient, and collaborative team that Ingrid just introduced you, Robin, Mark, and Raphael. They've always been a pretty incredible team, but this past year, they knocked it out of the park. This small team rose to the occasion to support every student, every teacher, every admin, and many, many families with technology throughout the pandemic. Tonight, I want to walk you through a concise presentation on some of the behind the scenes technology programs that were implemented to make for a successful transition from full in person to fully remote to hybrid to back to full in person again. Okay, so let's see what's going on here. Let's see. All right. The pandemic created a historic upheaval of K-12 schooling in the spring of 2020, forcing a total shutdown of all school buildings across the country. And on March 13, 2020, before leaving my office, I took a look at this quote that I have hanging on my wall and thought, wow, this has more significance now than ever before. And it's a quote by Charles Darwin that you can see there on the screen. It's not the strongest of species that survives, nor the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is most adaptable to change. When the district closed its physical doors on March 13th, the technology team quickly convened to strategize on how we could assist teachers with technology to continue to deliver instruction to their students. We collaborated with the administrators, with teachers, to recommend the best technology solutions to assist in moving forward during this disruption that we thought would last a few weeks. Over the next few days, we sent out a family survey inquiring about internet connectivity and access to devices. Based on the feedback that we received, we realized that many families were in need of Chromebooks, and therefore we quickly set up a safe and comprehensive drive-through pickup for technology distribution. We distributed over 1,000 devices to families in order for them to be able to be successful in accessing the curriculum. The team then moved to promptly set up a new and robust help desk system. Parents and guardians were given access to the help desk system in order to have a direct line to our department. Over 2,500 tickets have been addressed and resolved since March of 2020. It's unbelievable. I shake my head every time I look at that. In the system, we did have like a frequently asked question area too that many people found helpful. On March 22nd, we launched the Norfolk Public Schools Enrichment Online Learning Program. Thanks to our dedicated teachers and administrators and our curriculum directors, Vicki, who's sitting there with you tonight, and the former curricular director, Anita Mecklenburg, together, we designed and created an entire new way of providing opportunities for teaching and learning. This program was filled with rich content across all grade levels and gave students an opportunity to connect with their teachers every day. Once school ended last June, we made all lessons available over the summer for anyone who wanted to do a review. Since March of 2020, Robin has worked around the clock creating professional learning opportunities for staff in every single department at Norfolk Public Schools. Beginning last April, she prepared 3 topics per week and taught virtual classes multiple times a day in order to accommodate staff and quickly bring them up to speed on all the new programs that they needed to make and learn to make remote learning effective. She led classes in Flipgrid, Peer Deck, Screencastify, Seesaw, Calendly, SafeShare, Google Enterprise, just to name a few. She also held virtual office hours for grade level teams who would need support with a specific product or individuals who could not attend the offerings. She recorded and posted all of her sessions, giving staff the opportunity to refer back. The staff were and are forever grateful for all of that. And you can see there on the little slide, I mean, the calendar in the middle that's moving, that would go out weekly and people would sign up in minutes to get into the classes. As the webmaster, Mark Peasy crafted a COVID-19 resource website in order to provide our school community with accurate information in regards to where they could access resources for things like food security, travel policies, family wellness. The COVID dashboard was also created to inform families with live data of the number of cases of COVID in each school each week. This site was extremely well received. Raphael Sardi led the charge in making sure all of our content filtering was updated, which is so important when the kids are having the devices at home. Since our students were never allowed to bring the devices at home, we had to be sure that all the safety nets we had in place at school were now going to be in place while students were learning remotely. He enabled several security measures, such as restrictions on what students could use, on what they could search for, and the hours that they could access their devices. The team also increased training in use of GoGuardian Teacher. GoGuardian Teacher is a classroom management tool for the Chromebooks. It allows teachers the ability to view the screens of their students and be able to annotate or use a one-to-one chat. For example, the teacher can sit on her computer and she can see all 20 screens of her kids. She can see if one student is struggling, let's say in a math concept. She can do a one-to-one private chat, help that student with the math concept when nobody else knows. So it was really, really beneficial. Teachers and students found it extremely helpful. As we learned that there was a possibility that we would move from fully remote to hybrid, we began researching solutions of what teachers would need to simultaneously teach students in school and at home, and quickly realized what we needed to configure for them. We knew we had to act fast because every other district was looking for what we were looking for. We commandeered and installed all of the equipment we needed for a successful transition to hybrid learning. In an effort to keep staff safe once they returned, the tech team created a self-certifying wellness screener. Every morning, each person had to fill out the screener either online or through the QR code. And once it was complete, the results would go to either the Freeman nurse if you were an employee at Freeman, or it would go to the HOD nurse if you were an employee at HOD. They would analyze the data, take a look at it, and see if you could stay on campus or if you needed to be referred to a doctor. With all the wonderful work that Norfolk Public Schools does with social emotional learning, the adjustment counselors came to Raphael and wanted to be sure that they could continue to check in with their students, whether their students were remote or hybrid. So together with Raphael, they designed a concise SEL check-in screener for all students. The students did this daily. The responses were seen and analyzed by the school adjustment counselors and the homeroom teachers. And based on the responses, there was a team available to address any issue the students needed assistance with. This proved to be invaluable. With the students coming back on campus, so many protocols had to change, including the way school lunches were ordered, delivered, and where they could be consumed. Our team worked with Linda King, the Director of Food Services, to create an electronic lunch order form. Once the students ordered lunch via the electronic form, it populated and was seen by the food service staff. They could stop prepping how many students are getting what lunch option 1, 2, and 3. Lunches were safely ordered and delivered. And I gotta say, the food service staff, they did an unbelievable job this year. To keep our students safe and socially distant, we needed to rethink the school dismissal process and not have students congregating at pickup time. So Raphael designed a system where 2 or 3 staff would be equipped with an iPad, stand on the sidewalk outside of the building, and check off the students' names as it appeared in the window of the car into a master spreadsheet. All of the classrooms had this spreadsheet up on their smart boards. So as a student was checked off curbside, the student's name would be highlighted in green in the classroom, and that student would know that their parent or their guardian is in the pickup area and to come on down. When the buses pulled up, we had someone out there with a walkie-talkie who was walkie-talkieing into one of the building secretaries, and they would say, bus 17 is here. The building secretary would go into that spreadsheet, click on bus 17. All the students would see that that bus is highlighted in yellow. Anybody in the building riding that bus would come on down for the bus. This was an unbelievable system, and we're still using it today. It's really, really been helpful. An online report card had been on our docket, and this was the best possible time to roll it out. So we leveraged our current student information system and created an electronic report card for our students and families. It was really great for families to be able to log in and just get the report card, and it was even better for the environment with all the paper that we saved. This year has been very challenging. Some days it felt like we were building the plane as we were flying it. But overall, we adapted. We came out stronger on the other side. However, I would say that we would really welcome an uneventful 21-22 school year. Thank you for all your support.
Thank you so much to everybody. As I said to start the meeting, the tech team has really been fabulous. And as you see, we were way ahead of the curve in terms of ordering Chromebooks. We had equipment. Many districts didn't have Chromebooks in until October. Our kids all had them to start the school year. Most had them available last March when they needed them. 2,500 help desk tickets. You're looking at a team of 4 people who have full-time other jobs. So it's just a tribute to how much work and effort went in this year. Every member of this team has been working nights and weekends, Go Guardian alerts that come in after hours. They've been incredibly dedicated, and we greatly, greatly appreciate everything you've done. So thank you very much to the Norfolk Tech team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great presentation, and thank
Good
you for
job,
the Go
guys.
Guardian. I think it's fabulous, and having the forethought to do that, because I've seen in other districts kids playing video games and whatnot. Won't say where, but they're in class and some other stuff going on. So thank you.
You're just patrolling.
And I just want to say thank
I was
you.
gonna say where.
As a technical producer in educational technology, even one of the tools that you've built and done as the plane is flying is impressive. So, and as a parent watching this, knowing that I do something similar, it was very, very impressive from this side. So thank you.
Thank you.
And those
Great
are, I
job.
told them they only had about 10 minutes, so that's
Oh.
a consolidated version.
Yeah.
I mean, they also, when we had to assign kids to hybrid and into cohorts,
Yep.
they built and designed a placement system that would allow us to track siblings and make sure kids were in the right cohort by neighborhood. They've supported the student placement process, administrating the MCAS in a totally different way, and we've had to administer it to students that are remote learners. So this is a highlight, but they've done much beyond that, so. Again, thank you very much
Thank
for all
you.
of
Have
your
a great
efforts.
summer.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Get a vacation.
Everyone's ready.
Go sleep.
All right, great.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is a quick technical item. Every year, the school committee, per the state law, is required to appoint the school physician. We have worked with Dr. D'Angelo for many, many years. The nurses have found him to be very responsive and current, and in supporting any questions they may have. So it's my recommendation that we reappoint Henry D'Angelo as the school physician for Norfolk
Okay.
for the 21-22 year, and it's a $2,000 stipend that he is paid to serve in that capacity.
So do we have a motion to reappoint Dr. D'Angelo?
So moved?
Second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
Very excited for Dr. D'Angelo.
All right, seeing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Another responsibility of the school committee is to appoint annually the school nurses. We have 3 school nurses in our district. We have Ann Hurley, who works at the H. Olive Day School, and then 2 nurses who job share at the Freeman Kennedy, Barbara DiGiacomo and Jackie McFeely. They are an outstanding team, another team that has gone above and beyond this year in terms of the responsibility for all contract tracing for school-based cases was transitioned to school nurses. We seem to only get notification of new cases at 8:30 at night or on a holiday. And they jump to doing what they need to do, contract tracing, calling and notifying all families. They have been overseeing and guiding our safety protocols in the building. They've done a fabulous job. So it'd be my recommendation that we reappoint our 3 nurses. And I'm also recommending, as I mentioned earlier, we have been looking at some salary comps for some of our core positions in the district, and trying to align those better with the market. Our school nurse salaries are all slightly below the market, so my recommendation is that we reappoint them and we look at a 3% increase for our nurses for next year.
So we would need a motion to reappoint those 3 nurses along with the recommended 3% salary increase.
I move to reappoint the 3 nurses as discussed, and in addition, provide the 3% salary increase going into next year.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
I am thrilled to have all of the nurses come back after the year that they've had, so it's with a heartfelt thank you that I move to reappoint the 3 nurses.
McFeely was my neighbor for a number of years, an incredibly nice person, and Mrs. Hurley was always very nice. I remember her very well. So, yeah, great nurses, all 3. So very much appreciate all their efforts. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you again.
The other salary schedules that we looked at this year that were in need of adjustment, and we have addressed this through the budget planning process, so these are all budgeted for, that we would recommend first is our permanent building substitute. That position is currently paid $140 a day. With the changes and adjustments to our paraprofessional salary scale, for some of our ABA trained paraprofessional staff, when you look at their hourly rate, they're actually being paid more than our permanent building sub, and those positions don't require licensure or bachelor's degree. So in order to make them comparable, we're recommending an increase to $160 a day for our permanent building sub. We are also recommending some changes. Last year in January, the school committee approved an increase to our long-term teacher substitute and our paraprofessional daily subs. We're recommending that it was a COVID increase to make us more competitive with the market. The market demand has continued to increase, and we still are short in subs. So we're recommending retaining those higher rates. The temporary positions would be for an instructional assistant paraprofessional at $95 a day, a teacher at $110 a day, a certified nurse sub $114 a day, A long-term sub is when people are covering like a maternity leave and they assume all the planning and responsibilities of that role as a 175-day, and a long-term paraprofessional substitute who's in one program for an extended period of time at 100 a day. So I don't know if you want to
Yeah, we're gonna have to break
do
that
those
out.
ones first.
Do which ones first, I'm sorry?
Approve the adjustments to the permanent positions for building sub-educational,
Assistants and custodial?
yeah, I didn't discuss the educational assistants and custodial yet, so maybe we want to approve the temporary positions, and then we'll take the two salary matrices next, if that's okay.
Okay. So do we need a motion to approve the temporary position increases as described by Dr. Lardy? And those
I'm-
are, sorry, go ahead.
I move to approve the recommended increases for the temporary positions as outlined here and described by Dr. Alardi.
Okay, do you have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on those?
I just, am I reading this right, that an aide gets paid $16.75 an hour?
We haven't gotten to that one
We
yet,
haven't
but I
gotten
am
to that.
gonna go.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so these are for the instructional assistant, paraprofessional, teacher, certified nurse, long-term substitute, and long-term
Oh,
parasubstitute.
temporary. Okay, the
Yeah, we're doing the
temporary.
The
permanent.
Okay,
five under the
okay,
temp position.
okay.
Okay. Any further questions, comments? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. As far as the permanent positions, again, I already referred to the permanent building sub. That's a person that we hire that works every day and covers wherever we have a shortage or covers for team meetings. Recommending that be $160 a day, which will be comparable to some of our higher paid paraprofessional positions. And we are recommending adjusting two salary scales. The first is our paraprofessional salary scale. Those are the positions of our educational assistants in the kindergarten program and the preschool program, our specialized paraprofessionals that support our therapeutic programs and other special education programs. So this salary scale, there's a general assistant, and it has 6 steps. An ABA or RBT trained, which is somebody who has a specialized skill set in applied behavioral analysis. It's a fairly intensive course requirement that you have to complete to be eligible for that. And then a specialized assistant, which would be a board certified behavioral analysis, a certified occupational therapy assistant, or a certified speech and language paraprofessional. So there's 3 different tiers, and there's 6 steps for each. Again, we did a comprehensive salary comparison study. Our assistant scale was below what Rentham, Plainville, and KP have in place. We were losing paraprofessionals. We're significantly below Franklin and other area regional. And as you can see, we are constantly advertising and struggling to fill those positions. So we are recommending adjusting the scale. Our current step 1 is it's like $13.50 an hour, where we can't bring people in at that rate. So we're bringing people in at step 2 or 3. So the adjustment is higher on the lower steps. Step 1 and 2 and 3 have a higher increase. We were more competitive at the upper ends of our scales. So those are, they're all increasing, but it's probably a 7 or 8% at the lower steps and a lower increase on the higher end. Again, this was budgeted for as part of our budget proposal. We talked about the paraprofessional salary increase. So this is the scale we're recommending. Additionally, our custodial salary scale was not as competitive with the market, and we also had an issue where we are now sharing staff with the town and schools. And as we head into next year, our staff that work split between the schools and town, we're making more on the town side than they were at the school side. So what we've decided to do is recommend aligning fully the salary scale for our custodial staff with the town scale. So the town is going to be eliminating some of their lower steps, and we are keeping these following 10, so that we are fully aligned and can, in the future, look at more staff sharing between the towns and schools. So I would be seeking a motion to approve the permanent salary position adjustments, which would include the permanent building sub, the revised salary scale for the paraprofessional staff, and the revised custodial salary scale.
So we have a motion on that?
So moved. I don't want to repeat that.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Further discussion?
I do. I totally agree with this. I guess this is very ignorant of me. I feel shocked, and I understand that we're tight with money, and I completely understand that. But paraprofessionals or ESPs, whatever you decide, educational support people, educational assistants. They are so critical. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, this is more for the public, that at some point I really would like to go back and revisit this when we're in a better fiscal place, because the quality of people is so important in the role that they play with our children, not even just the children that they support, let's say in a special needs classroom, but they support every student. They are part of that classroom, they are part of that family, they are a teacher. You know, what, isn't minimum wage like $20? I would like to go back and know.
No.
Minimum wage is not $20.
No, we're above minimum wage.
All right, so where I'm going with this, okay.
Federally, it's like 10%.
But I still think this is too low. At some point, Dr. Alardi, I mean, we will look at this again sooner than later, right, without.
We will, and we've been trying to
Okay.
look at this for a while. This is a
I
significant
know,
increase.
I
And
know.
most of our staff are on the higher steps. And I would say at this point with this revision,
I know.
we are fairly aligned with the market standard. You know, we always will revisit and evaluate and look at comps again, but this will
It's-
bring us into alignment with what
It's
other
just
districts.
so critical, especially at
agree.
the young age, to have that, a good quality person in with your kids 8 hours a day,
Absolutely.
so. that's it.
Just to add to that, I'm glad the custodian's then gonna line up with the town.
Yes, and that,
If-
of course, yes.
If anything we've learned
Yes.
of the 10 million lessons over the last year, that they've
Absolutely.
always sort of been the unsung heroes.
They
and
are.
they've Finally got their sort of day in the sun, unfortunately, and maybe they'll say it that way, but
Yeah.
they're
Absolutely.
definitely well-deserved to get this sort of increase, so that's nice to see.
Absolutely.
So we
So,
still do
anyway,
vote on this.
all in favor, if there's no
Aye.
further discussion?
Aye.
Aye?
All right, great. The next item, our food service director, Linda King, who has been with us for 26 years in Norfolk and runs an outstanding program, has recently announced that she will be retiring at the end of this year. As we were looking at the food service program, and our food service program has strengthened over the last 10 years. It used to be a program that we had to supplement annually through the operating budget. It's now a self-funding program, so they've increased student participation, and it is a self-funding program. We are looking to continue the high level of quality. We want it to remain fiscally cost neutral to the district to operate that program. And we do have goals for as we move into the next few years. We want to continue to increase healthy options for our students, variety in the menu. And in looking at this, the Rentham Public Schools and Plainville Public Schools have shared a food service director position for a number of years, probably 15 years. That model's worked out really well for them. Their food service director retired last year. They have an interim person in the position this year, and they're currently interviewing for a new food service director. I've had several meetings with David Raish, who's the Plainville superintendent, and Alan Cameron in Rentham, as well as with Todd Hassett, our business manager, Linda King, and Roxanne. It's my recommendation at this time that we consider partnering with Rentham and Plainville and hiring one food service director regionally. That would be cost shared between the 3 districts. What that allows us to do is to increase the salary and recruit more competitively highly qualified candidates for that position. We would also be looking for an assistant food service director to support that position. We have looked at many, many other districts. Districts like Foxborough, Hopkinton, Hingham have 6 schools and 1 food service director. So it's very doable, but in order to have a presence daily in all districts, we think it would be best to have a food service director and an assistant. I was able to join because they were heading into their 2nd round of interviews. We have 4 outstanding candidates that could fill the position. And so I'm looking for the school committee to vote to support a transition to a regional food service model.
All right.
I'm
so
happy to answer questions or.
Let's get a motion. All right, so do we have a motion to look to hire a food service district?
I move to support the regionalization of the food service director position and add an assistant food service director position with Rentham and Plainville? Is that what you were looking for?
Yeah, that sounds good. That was a good motion. Grammar was very nicely done. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
A discussion.
A quick question, is there, I'm assuming there's a cost saving to all this, or do we?
There'll be a
generally-
slight cost saving.
A slight cost
Yeah.
saving?
Yep.
And I'm just curious, is it like the schools where is it just split in thirds, or is it according to how many
Yeah, is
students
it based
they
on how many,
service?
how many students?
So we would share a third of the cost of the position.
Just straight,
Yeah,
okay,
I
so
think
it's
that's
not
the
like
best
the
way to go
school
because
budget.
enrollment fluctuates every year.
That's what
and
I
they're
was getting at,
comparable
yeah.
sized districts.
Okay,
And I think the work is very similar. So the food service director does all the meal planning, creates the menus, does all
Right.
the ordering, state reporting,
Okay.
free and reduced lunch. So,
And you're talking physically about the same setup in each of the towns, right? It's
Yep.
2 schools, 2 cafeterias.
Exactly.
across it. Yeah, okay.
yeah.
yeah.
So I think that that position for efficiency, if you're planning for 2 schools, you can certainly plan for, for 4
Oh.
with similar menu options. Some local conditions you have to take into consideration. So, yes, I do anticipate there'll be a slight cost savings, but we do have to add the assistant director position. So
Right.
probably 5,000 to 8,000.
Right.
But it's really more about being able to increase the salary and recruit candidates that we're looking for somebody that may have a culinary background
Right.
on top of management experience.
Right.
And as a regional system, we're more competitive salary-wise, and the job is more of a challenge, and we're recruiting a higher tier of candidates. Otherwise, if we go out on our own, we would have to lower the salary. It's a less appealing position, and it's going to be hard to replace Linda King and all of the work that she has done over the years.
And I have one question. There's no concern about, it sounds like once they meal plan for one, it will be easier to sort of do that. No loss in quality or,
No, I really don't think so. I think we'll see improvement because we'll have more flexible options with the 3 in terms of purchasing and working with different vendors
More
when you've got 3
bargaining power
districts.
for ice cream purchases.
Well, probably order in bulk and like
Yeah.
your, or even
That's my
larger
point.
order,
You
maybe
the
get
good ice
better.
cream.
and I'm thinking about the healthy
Suppliers.
food options. You mentioned that
Yeah, those are
focusing on that.
priorities that we're asking about in interview
Medora's
questions.
got the right priorities.
And again, with an assistant and a director, between the 2 districts, one of the 2 people would be on site at least 3 to 4 days a week.
Okay.
So that they're overseeing. They also will evaluate and supervise all of our staff. Each building currently has a head cook that really oversees the day-to-day operations. So we'll continue with that in all 6 buildings. We'll have a head cook and kitchen manager in each building.
That's more what I was thinking, the day-to-day, who would, if this person is kind of bouncing, if there would be someone like
They
eyes
would
on the
be,
ground.
like I said, between the 2, somebody, either the assistant director or director would be on site for probably 3 to 4 days a week. And when they are not on site, it would be the head cook that would be or the kitchen manager that would
Where
be
would they
responsible.
be based? Is the assistant and the director going to be in the same physical location and then travel separately, or?
We haven't worked that out yet. We're still looking. It's going to be a space challenge. Who has the space to host the main office? But they would have an office in each building for the days that they're on site.
Okay. Would it be potential further cost savings? I don't know if there's a space, we'll just say here,
Yep.
physically in Town Hall, for an instance, where then if we're providing an office space for them, then rent them in Plainville will essentially provide a little bit more of a break.
I'm not
Financially?
sure. I'm not sure because right now we have an office space for Linda King at the Freeman
Okay, right.
Kennedy that was part of the building, and I know the other 2 districts have an office in each of their
So they
their
go
main
to the same
buildings. So I assume that the person will go from one office. If they're working in Norfolk, they'll work out of that office the days that they're here, and have an office in each site.
You know, the regionalization question comes up on various positions
Yep.
through the years, and I think in instances like this, it can make sense and does make sense, whereas some other positions, I don't think it makes sense.
I agree fully.
And I think this is one that makes it, like you said, you can, economies of scale, you're then able to get in theory, a much higher quality product you could put out there for you, the better ice cream that Medora very much wants.
I know what my kids are getting.
No, I think it's a good idea, so I like seeing stuff like this, so. Any further comments, questions, suggestions? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, great. The next thing I wanted to talk about further was, I know that I've spoken with many of you, most of you actually, individually, following the incident we had last Friday with the school bus driver. I think the priority of this committee has always been to put student safety first. And I know many of you had questions following that incident that we discussed individually. But I thought, just for the sake of the whole, that I would review the timeline of what took place on Friday, what the response was, and how we have followed up with homes following that. And then if anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer those. So, as you are aware, last Friday, we had a bus driver who brought a gun onto a school bus. Apparently, the incident took place on Thursday afternoon. Students were being dismissed from the middle school, and as they boarded the bus, some students in the back of the bus saw a gun on one of the bus seats. Alerted the driver to that they had seen a gun on the seat. The driver collected the gun, continued on his route. None of the students that day reported the incident to administration or to the schools, nor did the driver report it. Later that evening, my understanding is around 8:30 or 9 o'clock, a child informed their parent what had taken place, and that parent brought the child to report the incident to the police station. Norfolk Police got that information around 8:30 on Thursday night. The middle school and high school superintendent, Paul Zinni, was notified first thing Friday morning. At that time, the understanding of the police, or the theory of the police, was that it was a toy gun, a pellet gun, and it was believed to belong to a middle school student based on the initial information that they had. So the Norfolk Police began investigating at the middle school on Friday morning, interviewing students, pulling up camera footage from the bus. I was notified by Chief Stone at about 10 o'clock on Friday that they were in the process of investigating an incident at the middle school. It was a courtesy notification at that time, as we had no indication that any elementary students had seen the gun or that it was owned by the driver at that time. Around 2:30 on Friday, I got a call from Chief Stone asking me to come down to the station to be briefed on developments in that case. Mr. Zinni was also called at that time, and we met at the police station close to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. At that meeting, the police briefed us that their investigation had concluded that the gun belonged to the driver, that the driver, after the elementary run was complete, was following protocol, cleaning the bus seats, that the gun had fallen from his being onto the seat. He was unaware of it, got back on, and when middle school students boarded the bus, they found the gun. At that time, the Norfolk Police asked us not to release any information to the public as they were preparing for an arrest, and we did not want any information to get out that could potentially jeopardize the conclusion of their investigation and the process from there. So at that time, Mr. Zinni and I sat with Chief Stone, crafted a message that would go out to all of our families and community with the information we were allowed to share. We also worked with a PR consultant to craft a message or a press release with the information, so we wanted to have accurate information out to the press as well, so that everybody would have all of the correct facts that we were able to release. Once the arrest was made, the chief came in and said that it was okay for us to then release our messages. We sent information out immediately to all of our families. We were also notified that it had been leaked to the press. I don't know if that came from student rumors or from discussion happening, but it was leaked to the press, and we were advised to hold an immediate press conference. Part of the reason behind that is KP had a number of events scheduled that night, sports events, band, things like that. And if we didn't meet immediately with the press and put out the correct facts, the concern was that they would show up at fields and interview students, and we wanted to protect all of our students from that. So after we sent the message to the parents, we went immediately into the press conference, which you all probably saw on TV, I'm sure. And then once the press conference concluded, we went back and sent a separate message to all of our families of students who rode on bus 3. Middle school students who had actually seen the gun those families received a personal call from the middle school administration. So that's really the timeline on what took place. Obviously, we were furious about the situation. Incredibly poor judgment on the part of the driver. We did call for his immediate termination, which Holmes followed through on immediately. So the driver was let go. Over the course of the weekend, principals at both buildings worked with their mental health staff. We prepared talking points for teachers should the issue be brought up in class, so that they would have tools and resources for how to respond. We sent an additional message out and communication out Sunday night, letting parents of both schools know what our plans were for supporting students in the morning. We arranged to have the police on site at both schools, both at morning arrival and as well as at dismissal. One, because we were concerned we'd see an increase in parents choosing to drive and parent traffic, which we actually did not see. but the police were there to support that. Also, we were concerned about the press arriving, wanting to talk to students again, so the police provided support that day. We also asked our wellness teachers, who know all of the kids at both buildings, to ride bus 3, so that our students, when we had a new driver, would feel comfortable seeing familiar faces, having somebody to answer questions that they might have as they adjusted to a new bus driver. Following the weekend, after Monday, we made sure that everything went smoothly. Mr. Zinni and I met with Holmes Bus Transportation. I had a call with Holmes over the weekend to talk about the incident, talk about their drivers' training and safety, and also arrange for the bus to pick up our staff that were going to ride. But we had a formal meeting with Holmes on Tuesday, again, reviewed all of their protocols. All of Holmes drivers, as part of their licensure, have to have an annual CORI check, which is a criminal background check in the state of Massachusetts. They also have to have a SORI check, and that looks for any sexual offender history, not just in Massachusetts, but across state lines. Every 7 years, they have to have a fingerprint check, which is a federal, national criminal background check. Upon hiring, drivers have to complete 8 hours of safety training. After the safety training, we also provide an additional, it's a half-day. I'm looking at Vicki because she runs it.
For the
Half-day bus driver training for Norfolk.
it's about an hour and a half.
Okay.
Yeah. or more,
So
yeah.
we also provide training for all of our drivers in the beginning of school. Vicki, do you want to talk a little bit about what our training provides?
Sure. So I also want to kind of preface just to say that the assistant principals work very closely with Holmes and our bus drivers. We really kind of look at it as a partnership for us, so we spend a significant amount kind of supporting the bus drivers. If there's any issues that arise in a bus, we meet with the bus drivers. We have numerous times, when I was the assistant principal at Freeman Kennedy and when Anita was at HOD, we would ride the buses if we need to, maybe to enforce like a safety procedure, or if students needed particular support, So we really, like I said, we had a pretty strong relationship between the bus drivers and the schools. Every beginning of the school year, probably in the first 2 weeks, the assistant principals, one of the things they would do is organize a bus training. So we would invite our our principals would be there, our nurses from both schools, our adjustment counselors, and some of the things that we would go over for the bus drivers is health concerns, like if a student has an allergy, we give all our bus drivers an annual EpiPen training, so they know how to respond if a child has an allergic reaction while on the bus. Choking protocols, just to make sure that we cover all of these key elements. We also talk about student behavior and discipline. We talk about bullying, how to recognize bullying, how to report bullying. We share our district policies around that. We also give them tools and tips on how to build relationships with students, how to support students, how to develop really appropriate responses between the kindergartner versus the 6th grader. And really, our policy has always been, if there's any issues, to come and call the school and let us know, so we can kind of help support them. We also talk about just basic safety overview. Like this year, we talked about obviously mask requirements, distancing protocols, how we are seating students, usually youngest to oldest, and we enforce things like making sure that students are always seated on the bus, so things like that, and we kind of go through arrival and dismissal procedures for each school. So it's a really detailed training. We try to cover kind of everything that might kind of impact a bus driver or something that we feel that we want to make sure that they know. We also discuss confidentiality, of course, how to communicate with families, so we try to, like I said, cover all aspects of what a bus driver might encounter. And like I said, throughout the school year, we usually make it a point to be visible at arrival and dismissal, so you have that point of contact, because a lot of times issues come up, on the spot, so the bus drivers always know who we are and are able to come and with any issues that might arise. So.
And again, anytime we have a concern or complaint on the bus, we always follow up. Our assistant principals, which we didn't have this year because we didn't fill, but would often, as Vicki said, ride a bus if a driver was having difficulty with a management issue. Sometimes they go and view bus footage with the driver and provide coaching and feedback. Holmes is responsible for the 8 hours of safety training that they provide annually. They cover things like what is and what is not allowed on a school bus. All of the other safety things in terms of driving and operating the vehicle safely, emergency exits if you ever had a fire or need to evacuate a bus, that's part of Holmes's training. And they also do monthly safety meetings where they meet with all drivers. Based on our meeting with Holmes, Mr. Zinnian and I also requested that they do an immediate response to the events that took place on Friday and host a retraining for all drivers to review those critical procedures. I've asked Mr. Holmes to send us a copy of that agenda and to verify attendance following that meeting. So they have scheduled that. I also suggested they may want to do that with every district that they serve. So they are doing retrainings with all drivers at all districts. Again, we will continue to review practices and continue to work with Holmes. As Vicki said, we have a very supportive relationship when any issue arises on the bus, and we're very responsive to that. And we will continue to ensure that our kids are safe at all times. That's our priority.
What's the process of, I understand you can't have a weapon on the campus.
Yeah.
At what point, who tells the drivers that portion of it?
That's part of the safety training.
That Holmes is doing?
Yes, and it's a legal, I would imagine it's also part of the licensure training tests that they have to take, but that's a federal and state law. But I do also think that, given this incident, we may
What's where I was going with it?
repeat that in our training as well.
Well, just I'd like to get a copy of the training they do every year in writing, say, okay, you've now gone over, you can't bring a knife or any sort of weapon, gun, whatever the case
Absolutely.
is,
Alcohol,
on the
drugs.
bus. Yeah, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
But then also, I think we also need to reiterate
Yeah,
that
I
on
think
our part of it. I think
that is
that's
something that
critical.
we are going to look at, is what we might need to add or repeat as part of our training, but I agree with you. going
Yeah,
over
because
those.
I don't think we can just rely, I mean, Holmes overall does a nice job, and
Yep.
that's fine, but I think the more it's reiterated, the better, because
I would agree.
this person presumably thought this was okay. And we won't get into the specifics of it, but I think the more we do to make sure it's crystal clear
Fully
it's not okay, then make it easier.
Yep, I would fully agree with that. So again, we'll look at our training and determine whether there's anything else beyond that, but we will certainly repeat that, because that is a law specific to school grounds and school property. So even if you have a license to carry, you
Right, you
cannot
can't
bring
have
a
it on
weapon
there,
onto
correct.
school property. So I think that's an appropriate thing for us to reemphasize in our training
I'll
as
work
well.
closely with our new assistant principals, who will kind of be taking over this, but for the first year to help them kind of structure this training, and I'll be there too, just for the first, time, just to kind of support them as they transition, so.
Thomas, I agree. I mean, it's sad. It's the law, but it's also common sense. But I mean, clearly it needs to be articulated that, no guns, no weapons, no alcohol, no drugs. I think it needs to be explicitly
Yep.
stated.
Drivers also do have to do drug and alcohol testing when they're hired, and random drug and alcohol testing during the time that they are employed.
Yeah. Is it part of Second Step at all, or would we consider, I know the new health curriculum guidelines are coming out, is talking to kids about what to do if they see a gun, or like our kids our age, or even drugs like a needle? I hate to say it, they're around.
We
What
do
to
talk to
happen?
kids about what they should do when they're in a situation that feels dangerous, or when
Okay.
they see something dangerous, and we
Okay.
always talk about reporting to a trusted adult. I
Okay.
would have to say, in this particular situation, students did exactly the right thing.
Yeah.
They're middle
Unfortunately, they
school.
reported to an adult that they trusted who didn't make a good decision and act on that. But the kids did follow what we have taught. And that child that went home and reported to their parents also followed what we have been teaching in school. So absolutely, we do talk about safety, and we talk about how to respond, what things might be dangerous, what to do when you feel like you're in a dangerous situation, and who to
But
go
you
to.
don't specifically teach a danger, like a gun or a needle or something, it's not
The
specific.
DARE program in 6th grade does talk
DARE
about,
does, yeah.
yes, they do talk
Okay.
about that, and we do talk about things that are unsafe. So I would have to go back and see what grades that's introduced in. But we talk at all levels about things that are unsafe in situations that are unsafe.
I know, it's just sad, that's all.
It is.
Would it be possible at all to leverage the relationship with the school resource officer?
Yep.
To,
I
in
was
the
actually
trainings
thinking
with the
that we
bus
might.
drivers, to just remind them that, some of this is
Yeah,
common
good point.
sense, but some of these things are also just illegal,
Yes.
like bringing a gun onto school campuses.
We have a very good relationship with the police, and they support us in a lot of different ways with the DARE program and with the school resource officer. And I was actually thinking that that would be a valuable
That'd be
part of
great.
our training is to have the school resource officer join. So yes, I think that's a great suggestion.
Yep.
Also maybe worth putting essentially like something inside the buses that are all, like the little circle with the red thing on it, no weapons,
Yeah.
just to make it so it's just absolutely crystal clear, and then
Appropriate signage.
something like that. I mean, I'm not trying to scare the
Well,
the
we are
smaller
going
kids,
to
but
have
we've got
another
to figure
meeting with
something out.
Holmes and re-follow up. So that is something that we could talk about, whether or not it makes sense to have visual
Like,
signs on all
follow the
buses.
law, keep it safe or something?
Something,
I don't know,
I don't know the exact wording of
But
it.
I know.
Signage at the Holmes facility.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's
before
kinda
they
what I'm
must
going
check in somewhere, I would
Yeah.
think.
Smaller children, yeah.
Just,
And will we get a copy, you said, from the Holmes of what they reviewed?
They,
Will that be part of
you already have a copy. I sent you a copy of the letter with
Okay,
the agenda
right.
for the safety meeting. They sent it
Right.
to us immediately after
Okay.
we had
But
that
it's just
meeting.
bullet points, we don't get the whole, that's it.
I mean, that's the agenda.
Okay.
I can see if they have copies of supporting materials, if that's something you're interested in. But they sent us the agenda of the
Okay.
items that are covered, and they are tracking attendance, and we'll have that documentation as well.
Well, it sounds like they are doing everything legally that they are supposed to do, and I know, how much they do care about this town, and their children go to school here as well, so.
Yeah.
Glad to
I
hear
would
that
say they
everything-
took this, everybody took this very, very seriously
Yeah.
and was willing to do everything that we could to reflect on what we could learn from the incident and what we could change. So I would say that they were willing partners and very concerned about
That's
what
what
happened as well.
But there's always room to
Always,
Yes.
back and,
Yep.
And change and.
absolutely.
yeah.
All right, the last item I have for tonight is, as many of you have heard, on Monday evening, the governor announced changes to COVID restrictions in the state of Massachusetts. The Department of Ed, we were all expecting that those changes were not going to be implemented prior to the end of the school year. A decision was made over the weekend at the state side to move that timeline up. So the Department of Ed released some FAQs, some quick responses to the mask mandate lifts. And we had a conference with the commissioner today at 3 o'clock for more in-depth guidance from DESE. Basically, at this point, the Department of Ed and the state are no longer requiring students to wear masks while they are outside at recess, while they're outside in a physical education class, or while they're in an outside learning activity. It is based on extensive data and review of case transmission. There's the state medical team as well as the Department of Public Health weighed in on that, and it's in response to the fact that there's been very, very low rates of transmission in outdoor venues. So that is the recommendation. I think that at school, especially as we're entering into this really hot, humid weather, we would support that based on the medical data and evidence that has been provided. However, the Norfolk School Committee adopted a face covering mask policy way back in August when we were preparing for reopening. We adopted the model policy proposed by the state. I am suggesting tonight that we relook at that policy and consider some adjustments to be in compliance with the new guidelines from the state and the governor's office. Basically, the only changes to the policy would be exactly from the Department of Education language. We would have face masks required at all times when inside a school building. Face masks, the only exceptions are when children are having a mask break, either eating snack or lunch, and they're 6 feet distanced. But due to the low rate of outdoor transmission of COVID-19, students would not have to wear masks when outdoors, even if the social distance cannot be maintained. That would apply to recess, outdoor physical education classes, and outdoor learning environments. Adults, per DESE's guidelines, are still required to wear masks if they are not socially distanced outside at this time. Again, teachers outside supervising recess duty, as long as they're distanced from students and other staff members, can also not wear their mask. So I am recommending the school committee adopt the revisions to the face covering policy. I also added the new reference from the Mass Department of Education with those guidelines. And then, again, open to, I guess, if you want to do a motion first, and then open to questions and discussion.
All right, so do we have a motion to adopt the revised face covering policy as described?
So moved?
A second?
Second.
Further discussion?
Quick question, close contact, they won't be considered a close contact, right, if they have their masks
That
off
hasn't been
outside?
finalized yet.
Okay,
We were informed today on the meeting that there's a proposal that DESI is reviewing with the medical team and with the Mass Department of Public Health that would basically exempt students from being considered a close contact if they are exposed outside.
Okay.
But it hasn't been adopted and finalized. We're waiting for future guidance on that.
okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ingrid. Moving on to KP.
So KP School Committee has had 2 meetings since our last meeting. I unfortunately missed the May 3rd meeting, but if you want to see the minutes, they are posted, or I have them if you want to read them. But at this week's meeting, there's a lot going on at the schools with the students, which is great to see. At the middle school, the Kindness Club has been holding a clothing drive in partnership with Cradles to Crayons. And at the high school, all the freshmen, sophomores, and juniors were in the building as of the 17th, which is great to see. Last day for the seniors was on the 14th. There's a new French Honor Society that met for the first time. Science National Honor Society had a paper airplane competition, which I was sad to have missed. Sounds like fun. The class of 2022 is going to be holding a fundraiser at Uno's in Rentham on June 2nd. Flyer is available on this class's Twitter account, so everyone take a night off cooking. From the superintendent, from Paul, he did go over the U.S. News and World Report update with this KP's ranking. KP did drop a few spots from 75 to 86. He is going to put together a report for the fall that will illustrate and sort of explain why and the different things that are looked at for the rankings. So more information to come on that. It's going to compare KP to other similar districts as well as just KP to KP to see what's going on, as well as with some recommendations for getting KP back up in the ranking. Let's
Sarah,
see.
is one of the metrics for that per pupil spending? I believe it is.
It might, yeah.
I don't see how it couldn't be.
Yeah.
Yeah, and KP has been low for a number of years.
Yeah, spending and,
comparatively, so I do think that that's probably
Yeah,
a
that's
part
a
of
big
it.
factor, but I mean, he made sure to reiterate that MCAS scores are still above and beyond the state average, so it is probably the spending. Let's see, graduation update. Paul had a meeting with the commissioner today, so there'll be updates on that. As of the meeting on Monday, KP graduation will be done on this in the same way it was last year, where the graduate will be sitting with 2 guests. But there might be some changes after today's call, so more to come on that. Let's see, anything else? KP School Committee is going to be holding a retreat in August. And that's it.
Where are you retreating to?
Anywhere
Like,
good?
I'm fine to stay through the summer, and then I don't want to
The
be.
library.
I was like, I'll go to the Cape.
Library.
Week-long junket to the
It's
Cape.
up
Yeah.
They have, I believe, 5 new members, is that correct? Or is
There's
that
a
Rentham?
lot.
Yeah,
Let's see,
so I
one-
think that part of that is the training that we did when we had Glenn Kuchar come in, and you guys did independently through charting the course.
No, thank you.
Yeah, so
You
they're
guys can actually request that Mask even send you someone to do like a.
they have someone coming in to do it.
Yeah,
I'm
like
not
a
sure.
Special, yeah.
So they're going to do that one for just KP, but then he's working with all the districts to do some sort of event with every school committee together at
We had
another
talked
time.
about, and I'll have more information at the next meeting, possibly doing a joint September meeting with the various committees to talk about some potential regional goals that we might want to.
And he sort of chummed the water with mentions of dinner and things like that.
Nice use of chum.
The last thing is that the school committee decided to cancel the next meeting as well as the meeting after, so there'll be no meeting on June 7th or the 21st. And then they're gonna have 1 meeting in June instead of 2, so the meeting for June will be on the 14th.
That it?
That is it.
Thank you. Policy, anything?
Nothing from policy, we haven't met.
Yeah, we didn't have a policy committee until tonight. Committee, so, since the
Emergency
election.
policy change.
Right.
We're allowed to do that.
All right, so then we need a motion to accept the minutes from our last meeting of April 13th. second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Assume we're not going back in a time warp to 2020 for our next proposed meeting. It says June 8, 2020.
I don't want to go back.
So I don't think we want to revisit all that. And then separately, that's my anniversary, so you guys are awesome, but I probably don't want to spend my anniversary with you.
What if you bring Kay?
I don't know if I'm selling her on that. I mean, she had to bring my glasses today.
What if we bring you to a really nice restaurant and we'll, you know.
Again, I'm going back to the dog, which hasn't been delivered yet, which was my demand. And then the following week, I'm not here. So the following week of June, so I'm now making this difficult for June. I apologize.
Thomas, would you be okay if we held it June 8th, just because once we get into the summer, is that what we're discussing the next?
That's also the other thing I was throwing out there. If you,
Okay.
guys
Just
want to
because
go.
as we get in, like the 15th is the last day of school for Norfolk. I know I'm going to be taking my kids
Sure.
up to New York to get them away for a week. And
We could also do a different day
Vacation.
that week.
I was
We
going to say,
do
could
the
we just
9th.
do an adjacent day
Yeah.
and get it
I'm
done?
actually away on the 8th as well, so,
Okay.
but I will
We
be
could
back on
do
the,
the
I'll be
9th
back
if
on
that
the
works.
9th.
Ninth
It's a
Ninth is my
Wednesday.
birthday.
Oh, yeah, that's right. How about the 10th? How about
A
Thursday,
cake
the 10th?
would be provided?
I am just all over June.
Oh,
just
no,
so
I
you know.
can't do the 10th.
And
Did you pick the 8th
I was
because
gonna-
you'd never forget your anniversary?
exactly.
My parents did.
How about Monday, the 7th?
Yeah, how about the 7th?
I
Lucky
could do
number
the
7.
7th. I
I
have
could
no
do the
personal
7th.
events going on.
I am away.
Sarah's away.
that's okay.
That's
What'd you
okay.
say, Jen? You can do that?
Yeah, I could do the 7th. If you don't mind, Sarah.
No, that's fine.
Just once we get into summer, it's going to be really hard.
It is hard.
My June is already insane.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Can you do
Like
the
the 7th?
7th, Shannon?
I think so.
Of 2021, June 7th, 2021.
I can
Okay.
call in if I
We
need to, too.
typically invite
I'm just-
retirees that night.
Yeah, I was about to ask when
Yeah.
we were reading
We're gonna
about
have a
that earlier.
heavy
We're gonna,
knock on
because we
wood.
know
On
them.
the
an
7th,
invite.
if that,
Okay.
if that works.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, good.
We should be.
I don't know if everybody caught that. The retirees that we didn't get a chance to honor because of everything this year, we're gonna invite them to the June 7th meeting now.
Oh, perfect.
And we'll
So-
do last year and this year's.
Perfect.
We'll have
retirees.
2 years
Perfect.
worth, so that'll be nice.
Fantastic.
All right, if not seeing anything else, we need a motion to adjourn, actually. I
I
apologize for
move
that.
to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now I'll get hit this. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Right.
I got excited.